What did ancient humans measure wealth as? Look around your room right now. Maybe you have a wallet, a bank account, a phone that tells you exactly how much money you have. Maybe you've checked your balance sometime this week without even thinking about it. Now imagine trying to explain money to a human living 30,000 years ago. You tell them you have wealth stored inside invisible numbers on a screen. You tell them a small piece of plastic can buy food. You tell them people spend decades collecting pieces of paper issued by governments. They would probably think you've lost your mind, because for most of human history, wealth wasn't measured in money. It wasn't measured in gold. It wasn't measured in silver. And in many places, it wasn't even measured in possessions. Ancient humans had a completely different understanding of what it meant to be rich. Some forms of wealth were practical. Some were symbolic. Some were surprisingly emotional. And one form of wealth was so valuable that losing it could mean death, even if you had everything else. By the end of this video, you'll understand why the richest ancient humans often own very little, and why the true measure of wealth may have changed less than we think. Let's start with the most obvious answer: food. If you lived during the Ice Age, food wasn't something you casually picked up on the way home. Food was survival. A successful hunt could feed a family for weeks. A failed hunting season could destroy an entire community. Archaeologists have discovered evidence of ancient groups storing dried meat, marrow-rich bones, nuts, seeds, and preserved foods whenever conditions allowed. Imagine two hunters. One returns empty-handed. The other returns with enough meat to feed 20 people. Which one appears wealthy? The answer seems obvious, but here's where things get interesting. In many hunter-gatherer societies, keeping all that food for yourself wasn't considered wealth at all. Sharing it was. The hunter who gave food away earned something far more valuable than meat: reputation. And reputation may have been one of humanity's first currencies. Across dozens of traditional societies studied by anthropologists, the most respected individuals weren't always the strongest or the most aggressive. Often they were the most generous. Every piece of food shared created a debt. Not a debt written on paper, a debt remembered by people. And people have excellent memories when survival is involved. If a harsh winter arrived years later, those favors could come back when you needed them most. Which leads to a strange conclusion. The richest hunter wasn't necessarily the one with the most food. It was the one with the most people willing to help him. But food wasn't the only form of wealth. Ancient humans also valued tools. Today, tools are everywhere. You can buy a knife for a few dollars. You can order an axe online and have it delivered tomorrow. Ancient humans had no such luxury. A high-quality stone tool might require rare materials collected from dozens or even hundreds of miles away. Some obsidian blades discovered by archaeologists traveled astonishing distances through ancient trade networks. The people who possessed these materials held something special. Not just a useful object, proof of connections, proof of access, proof that they belonged to larger social networks. And that made them powerful. Then there were objects that seemed completely useless: shells, colored stones, animal teeth, pieces of red ochre. For thousands of years, humans collected and traded items that had little practical value. At first, archaeologists were confused. Why transport decorative objects across vast distances when survival was so difficult? The answer may be status. These items signaled something important. They told others who you were, where you came from, who your allies were. In a world without written records, symbols mattered, and symbols often become wealth. But eventually humans discovered a form of wealth even more practical: animals. Once agriculture began spreading across parts of the world, wealth started growing legs: cattle, goats, sheep, camels, horses. For many ancient societies, livestock became the closest thing to money. Animals could provide food, transportation, clothing, tools, trade opportunities, and perhaps most importantly, they could reproduce. A herd could grow. A pile of stones could not. This is why some of the earliest historical records measure wealth not in coins, but in animals. A person with hundreds of cattle was effectively a millionaire by ancient standards. Yet even livestock wasn't the highest form of wealth everywhere, because there was something even more valuable: knowledge. Imagine knowing where water could be found during a drought. Imagine knowing which plants healed wounds, which berries were poisonous, which migration routes animals followed, which caves stayed warm during winter. That information could save lives. And unlike food or tools, knowledge could be carried anywhere. Many ancient communities depended on elders who possessed decades of survival experience. Their value couldn't be measured by what they owned. Their value came from what they knew. Lose the knowledge, and an entire group could suffer. But the greatest form of wealth ancient humans possessed may surprise you. It wasn't food. It wasn't tools. It wasn't jewelry. It wasn't livestock. It was people. Anthropologists studying hunter-gatherer societies consistently find that survival often depends on social networks. Who will help you when you're sick? Who will feed your family when hunting fails? Who will protect you during conflict? Who will share resources during famine? In many ancient communities, your relationships determine your chances of survival more than any physical possession ever could. A person surrounded by allies could recover from disaster. A person isolated from others often could not, which means the wealthiest individuals may have been those with the strongest social bonds, the largest networks, the deepest trust, the most friendships. And suddenly, ancient wealth begins to sound strangely familiar. Because if you strip away money, banks, investments, and technology, many of the things we still value remain the same: knowledge, reputation, relationships, trust, community. Look around your room again. Your ancestors would probably be amazed by everything you own: the lights, the furniture, the temperature-controlled walls, the technology. But they might also recognize something else: the fact that your life still depends on other people. Thousands of years later, we've changed the way wealth looks, but perhaps not the reason it matters. Because whether you're living in an Ice Age camp, an ancient farming village, or a modern city, wealth has always been about the same thing: security. The confidence that when things go wrong, you'll have what you need to survive. And for most of human history, the most valuable thing a person could possess wasn't something they could hold in their hands. It was knowing they wouldn't face the future alone.